All right, all right, all right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. My name is 12 Gauge, and I will be your host. This is a members only podcast, and we will be talking about the Dark Triad. I have some other members on this live that participated with me, and they gave their opinions, and they were able to articulate their understanding of the cases that are being discussed here. So I just wanted to give them credit. We have Ginger Peoples. I don't know if she's still a subscriber or not. I have Amicus Cure. I don't know if she's still a subscriber or not, but at the point where I did this video, they both were subscribers and they both participated in this live. And I also have my friend Carla on this live as well, and they discuss a lot of interesting things. So I hope you guys enjoy this because it took a lot of work to get all this information on here and get these individuals' expertise to be placed appropriately to present this to you. So here we go. Okay, our guest is in the back room. So let me go ahead and make sure everything's all right with that person so I can bring her up. If you want to be on camera, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. If you want to leave your name as it is, that's fine. If you want to change your name, that's fine. So give me a thumbs up if you're okay with everything. Okay. Well, everybody, we have Ginger Peoples here. She's going to co host with me tonight. So why don't y'all give her a hands up, the little clapping hands in the chat if you know Ginger. And here we go.
Hey guys.
Hey Ginger,
Hey,
welcome.
hey, thank you. Hey 12 Gauge, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing really good. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. This case is just crazy.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I was talking about it last night. As a matter of fact, I had some guests on here last night, and we went about 2 hours. So um, I'm going to use my little avatar tonight because, like I said, I just got I just got up from a nap, so I'm probably not presentable for YouTube. I don't want to get banned off YouTube just trying to do a live on a camera. So hope you understand.
Okay.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so first things first, why don't you tell the chat a little bit about yourself as far as the true crime creator and how long you've had your channel and what you mostly talk about over there on your channel. Give them a little bit of insight on who you
Okay.
are.
Okay. Well,
Hold on,
my
hold
name
on.
is
Let me stop. Let
okay,
me
I'm
stop.
sorry.
That's you're fine. Just don't give out any private information. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, hey guys. My name is Ginger and um I've been investigating mainly missing people, missing children for a really long time. I mean, I would say I would say I started when I was in my teens, even. And I just did it amateurly. And this case is really interesting to me because I have children, I have teenagers of my own. And it's just something that, I've been always just very drawn to, the true crime thing. I kind of have a different perspective of things. I mean, everybody has such a, like a unique way of presenting themselves, on their channels and things of that nature. I'm more, I'm such an empathetic, deep, compassionate person, and I just, like, I have feelings, like, gut instincts, things of that nature. So when I look into a case, it's more like where, I sometimes I can see things, I can, have visions and things, of if that makes any sense. It doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes I have really very articulate, like, dreams, even if that, if anybody can relate to me on this. Um, so I've just always been interested, in true crime. And like I said, I have two teenagers, and one is going off to college, and I'm just like so, like, freaked out about it, because there's so many different parallel constructions within this case. It just is, it's crazy to me. And to know, that there's so much corruption going on, there's so much evil in the world, and so many different.
Yes, indeed. Well, Ginger did have an interesting perspective, and hi, Leslie. She did have an interesting perspective on the evil in the world. Most definitely, there is a lot of evil in this world, and according to this case, the Idaho 4 case that I'm talking about here in the Dark Triad, that is part of the the part that I want to bring out more than anything. And I don't want to appear that I'm trying to sway your opinion on this case, or like earlier I had individuals kind of not really attacking me, but they were quick to be throwing out, another channel and their perspective and all this other stuff, which is fine. I'm not in competition with any channel whatsoever, and I'm free to articulate my approach and my thoughts and attitude toward this case, even if it doesn't match other presenters' end result. You know what I mean? People work hard on this case daily, and whatever their opinion is at the end of what they find, I mean, that's their opinion, that's their findings. Doesn't mean that everybody who comes across other people's channels or whatever have to agree with that, because there's a lot of experts that I talk to on a daily basis through emails, through Zoom, through all kinds of things, and I ask a lot of questions of these people. So whenever I articulate my thoughts and understandings, it might not be directly my own, but I've researched it enough that I try to give you the best understanding that I've been able to find. And so whenever people say, "Well, this person solved this part of it," or "Did you catch this person?" Well, to be honest, I've like I said to one person, I've talked to an expert deeply about certain parts of the case, and they gave me an understanding in a simplified way. Could I go and simplify that way and present it? Possibly so, but as far as the DNA in this case, it has nothing to do with anything that I want to venture down, because I know that there's trace DNA that was found under the button snap. Whether it turns out to be his, whether they mess with it, whether they added to it, whether, it was whatever theory people have out there, that's their theory. I don't want to venture down that because that's not my specialty. That's not an area that I can even present that in a way that it would make sense. So I've never touched on that. I've always used videos of experts describing it or whatever. Because to me, in order to be believable, you either have to have worked in it, have studied it for a while, or you have to have individuals that have taught it to you, or you have life experiences that delegate your opinions on a particular thing. And those are my thoughts on how I present things. So that might not match anybody else's, and that's totally fine. But do understand, and I don't anticipate this on this video, but and that's one of the reasons that I chose to go members only is because I wanted the members that would be able to be given something different, even though this has been presented already on the live. I wanted the members to be given something different so that they could see it in their own view without other people coming in and discussing different narratives on this. You know what I mean?
So
Thank you, Billy.
yeah,
Okay.
Billy, for being here.
missing people is more my, like my avenue. That's more my thing. I kind of vibe more to that. But
Well,
yeah,
that's awesome. So have you been following the Sebastian Rogers case at all?
I have not actually. I do. So I was interested. I did hear a little bit about that case, but I don't know much about. Is that the little boy?
Yes. The 15-year-old from Hendersonville?
Okay, I did actually see a little bit on I watched a little bit about how you had talked about him. But no, I don't know the case specifically. There's a local girl that went missing. So I've been, trying to investigate her case.
Okay. All right.
So that
Before you sign off tonight, if you give the mods your channel name, we can drop your link in the chat and have people go over and check your page out to
yes,
what they see and sub up.
that would be amazing. I mean, I only have like 7 subscribers, and God bless all of them. So I'm
Yeah.
just starting, because I'm not really into technology and things of that nature. I just, I'm just starting out. So
Okay. Amicus, I see you up here. You need to hit your mic or your cam in order for your device to connect. I don't mind you coming up here, but it says device is not connected. So when you have that problem, it just means that you need to hit either your mic or your camera or both. Well, Ginger, I'm thrilled that you're up here. You and I have been talking behind the scenes a little bit about setting this up, and you've expressed interest in wanting to come up here and talk about it. And it's okay to have different beliefs on the case. I mean, that's what makes it interesting because
mhm.
I know that a lot of my chat members have different opinions, and that's what makes the whole case so interesting. We get different perspectives, and it is what it is. So be just be yourself. Just feel free to talk as you would be talking on a live or yeah, like you'd be recording your own video at home or something. We're all friendly here. We're not gonna attack you. We're not gonna do any of that. Like I said, if anybody starts, being rude or anything in the chat, the mods have been directed to let that person out of the chat room. Okay. So it looks like
Absolutely.
Amicus wants to come up. Do you know who Amicus is?
Amicus says, I do know a lot of creators, and a lot of people should like recognize my name because I do have a lot of different opinions about the case. So,
Mm-hmm.
but that particular name does not ring a bell for me. I mean, I'm open to anything, and I truly appreciate being here, and I'm thankful to everybody. 12 Gauge, I thank you immensely. Yes, please, the more the merrier is how I look at it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Hey, Rondi, either you or some other mod that's in the chat, if you could look up Ginger People's page, I think it's just under that name. So you'll see her page if you can put it in the chat. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. For the people that are in here, please hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, please give us a chance and hit the subscribe button if you like what you see and what you hear. The last couple nights I have had panel guests, and I usually have panel guests. So let's see where we go with this. Okay, I'm going to start off with the dark triad. This is the explanation of what the dark triad is. So whenever this individual is talking about it, you'll understand what it is, chat, because I didn't explain it the other day when I did part one, and I figured that out today. So please be a little kind that I did not do that for you. Here we go. I did not draw these either.
Hey Psych2Goers, welcome back to another Psych2Go video. Have you ever heard of the dark triad of personalities? Well, what is the dark triad and how was it discovered? So, the dark triad is 3 overlapping yet distinct personalities: subclinical narcissism, subclinical psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. By subclinical, we mean that someone might show the traits of a narcissist or psychopath, but they're not severe enough to be diagnosed as a disorder. In 2002, Delroy L. Paulus and Kevin M. Williams at the University of British Columbia did a study on whether these 3 personalities were identical by comparing the 3 personality traits of the dark triad.
So the individual in the video I'm going to show tonight, I'm probably going to, back it up a little bit so you understand exactly what he's talking about since we're watching this video. The dark triad he talked about as far as being Mr. Koberger or the suspect of who could have committed these crimes, they would have these 3 traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So these 3 traits would have led this individual to commit this crime because it's 3 distinctive personality types that not everybody has. So we talked about psychopathy, which is a psychopath. The Machiavellianism is kind of like a in the shadows, kind of not wanting to be seen, but domination. And narcissism, of course, is all about themselves. So let's continue to hear.
Well, think about that. Machiavellianism is, you're wanting to be in the shadows and you're not wanting to be seen. Already dropped it, Rondi. That was the old me talking to you on there. Already dropped all the creators that are going to be on here. You're good. So think about if you're trying to commit a crime, you're trying to commit, as in this case, a murder. So you have this personality where you're wanting to lurk, so to speak, but you don't want to be seen. You want to be incognito. You're kind of like that series You. Joe, the main character, he's always around his prey, but they never see him. He's watching them, but they never see him. So that's an example. Or let's say that you were not really stalking someone, but you were watching them from afar, because there's a difference between stalking and watching and surveying. I believe, and this is my opinion, that if you're watching somebody, you're not necessarily stalking them if you're not around them 24/7. Like, stalking to me would be like, okay, everywhere you go, this person's there. watching you would be like, okay, I know there's a tendency that you're hanging out at this bar, and I want to roll by and see if you're there. So I drive by, see if I recognize any of the cars, and keep on going. Or if I know that you have a study group at 8 o'clock at the UC, I'm gonna walk by about 7:58 to see if I can get a glimpse of you, and keep on walking. Stalking is staying there and being seen, like making sure that I'm making you uncomfortable. So that would be a difference that I would believe would make a huge denominator in this case, because so many people are fixating on the fact, well, there was no stalking, there was no connection. Well, how do you know that? Because we've heard otherwise. We've heard otherwise that he was at the student union more than once. There's been people talk about that. And if you haven't heard that video, I have plenty of video that shows these people talking about Mr. Koberger's personality. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Let me know if it does or if it doesn't.
Hear what they got to say about these.
With 3 other psychological aspects. They found that the correlation patterns were very different and concluded that psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism were indeed distinct. So, what's the difference? Narcissists tend to have a large sense of self as they feel entitled and superior to those around them. Machiavellianism, on the other hand, tends to be more manipulative and selfish, and psychopaths are more insensitive as they lack empathy for others and act without thinking. They are all associated with varying degrees of deception, questionable morals, and self-interest, but what they do have in common is disagreeableness. It's also thought that there is a relatively high genetic component to all 3 personality traits. Interestingly, psychopathy and Machiavellianism are more closely related to each other than narcissism, possibly because narcissism is the only one that can grow from a feeling of insecurity. What about sociopaths? It's easy to confuse psychopaths and sociopaths, so you might be wondering, why aren't sociopaths included in this list? Both are listed as antisocial personality disorders in severe forms, and both share a lack of moral judgment and lack of empathy. There are, however, a few things that distinguish the two. Psychopaths are likely to be pathological liars, and they rarely feel guilt since they do whatever they have to benefit themselves. They're known to be fearless and often good at mimicking behaviors to hide their psychopathic traits. Sociopaths, on the other hand, tend to have a conscience, even if it's weak. Although they are self-centered, they do care for others more than psychopaths. They're also less skilled at hiding their behavior and act in ways that make self-indulgence and lack of empathy more obvious. Although it's unclear as to why sociopaths are not included in the list, it could be due to how environmental factors are more influential to the cause of sociopathy than genetics. How does someone with one or more of these traits act? According to a 10-year review study, members of the Dark Triad have similar behaviors in a variety of social settings. In the workplace, for example, they're likely to fit the trope of an entitled boss or leader who is able to charm their way to the top, but not make genuine connections with the people around them. In education, cheating and plagiarism are predictable. This is more associated with psychopathy and Machiavellianism. Other than their displays of social entitlement, their behaviors differ more when it comes to interacting with others. Psychopaths tend to give negative first impressions as they want to appear to be intimidating. They also have an uncanny ability to mimic the behavior of those around them.
So think about that a little bit, because what she just said, they have a tendency to mimic the people around them. So addicts do the same thing. They are chameleons and how they mimic behaviors. So psychopaths want to be liked, right? So they're gonna want to portray an image about themselves that they want people to say, well, I'm gonna let down my guard around this person. So how did that affect this case?
To blend in. People with Machiavellianism, along with psychopaths, tend to come off quite cynical and morally suspicious. Narcissists, interestingly, have a skewed sense of self and tend to view themselves as far better leaders and far more empathetic than they actually come off as. Where do we go from here? As you've seen, recent research has made it possible to distinguish between the dark triad of personality. But what does it mean moving forward? Researchers have started to look into the function of the dark triad in the business world, how these personality traits relate to the ability to maximize profits. Psychiatrists have also looked at how the dark triad are more vulnerable to addiction disorders. There are even studies that look into the relationship between the dark triad and affective disorders such as depression. We hope we were able to help you understand and distinguish the different personalities of the dark triad. If you're interested in learning more on each of these personalities in other videos, let us know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with those who might benefit from it. The references and studies used in this video are added in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
I would suggest that before the trial, you got to get very versed on these 3 things, because I'm pretty sure they're going to be brought out. Personality disorders as well. Addiction, things like that, because all that's going to be brought out, because that is his character. He was a drug addict. Did he have tendencies to have those moments of superiority where he would stare you down until you succumb to his thought pattern or his rendition of what he was trying to get across to you? Did he overpower you with his word? Did he try to manipulate you with his word? Did he try to get you to unfocus from his behaviors by presenting a person that was more superior than anyone you've ever met? Therefore, you didn't notice the other stuff that he wasn't proficient at. And I did pin this video in the description area. Psych2Go is the creator. So I thought that was an interesting layout of
The 3 dark triads, as far as the narcissist, the Machiavellianism, and the psycho. Yeah, the other one. Gosh, my head is all over the place.
That was really interesting, actually, because that's something that is really important to talk about, is the person who really committed this crime. Who would do that? What kind of mind do they actually have? That's
Yes. And you're asking the right questions in the proper way. It's who could have done it, what type of person could have done it. Because even if we go with the avenue that the suspect that we have right now, or that they have locked up, is innocent, who else could have done it? What type of individual could have done it? And I don't believe.
So these are the questions you can ask yourself regarding Mr. Koberger. Who, what, when, where, and how. If you can put him into any of those 3 or more, then the chances are heightened that he is the one. Who, what, when, how, and where. So answer those questions for yourself. That's what I'm talking about right now.
Believe that people are thinking that far in advance, because like I was sharing the other night when I did part 1, and you'd let me know if you agree or disagree, Ginger. This individual is a very disturbed, dark individual. An individual that is not like you and I. Because obviously we're not murdering people. We're not going into homes in the middle of the night and committing these crimes, you know. So to think on that line, it has to be an individual that is not of the norm, you know, someone that just did not wake up that morning and say, you know what, I'm going to go kill 4 people.
I don't understand. I really truly don't think, even though I don't know who really knows Brian Koberger, who really like actually knows them, like went to school with them, hung out with them, is their, best friends with them, like has spent a numerous amount of time with this dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like to say, he's not that way is, in my personal opinion, I mean, I have my thoughts and feelings on this, and I just, somebody who, okay, like he's going to school, like how old is he? What is he, 28?
Well, he was 28 when he committed the crime, so he was older than these individuals in the home.
So he's actually still, I mean, he would have been getting his doctorate, correct?
Correct.
And he would have been, when he graduated, how old would he have been? 30 something?
30 something, yes.
Is that normal to be that old?
Not necessarily, because usually you get your bachelor's if you go in at 18, 4 years, so 3.5 if you're accelerated. So let's say 24, or not 24, 22 or 21, and then you go 2 more years to get your master's, and then I think your doctorate is 2 years as well, so that's 4. So about 27, 26, you'd get your doctorate.
Okay, why is he so old and still in school?
I don't know the answer to that, but he could have got a late. He could have got a late start, and I guess that was a rhetorical question, right?
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about that the other day, actually, because I was thinking, shouldn't he have been actually graduated by now? I mean, I could be completely off, like, I'm just saying physically, he should have, I thought maybe he should have been, graduated. But, the psychology of it, of who he is as a person, I don't even know what kind of voice he has. Like,
Right.
I would, the whole court, like, proceedings and things like this drives me crazy because, and this is something I've pointed out before, is why in the world are these court proceedings so grainy? When you look at them, like, everybody looks like they're aliens, like, he doesn't even look like who he is, who they say he is. Are these actually, is it actually him in court? Did anybody actually physically see his face?
Yeah.
Ginger, I know you're not here, but who else would it be? Who else could be in that courtroom next to Ann Taylor? Sometimes you have to have a little faith that what you see is what it really is.
I don't know. These are like just questions that like run through my brain. I'm just
Well,
like,
that's fine. That's fine, and they're good questions. To answer the chat, We're not saying that he's old or that he was old for being in the level of education he was at, because we understand that there's a lot of individuals that can go back to school at any age. That's not what we're addressing. We're kind of talking about whether he was on track right out of high school, he went to college, this, that, and the other. Would he have been 28 had he went that route, or was there some interruptions in there that caused him to start a little later or anything like that? Because I mean, we haven't been prevalent to any of that information. So I guess that's the That's the question that Ginger was referring to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he is a mystery. He is a mystery.
He is. Really, because, yeah, he really is. I mean, he hasn't spoken. He hasn't said anything. They say that when I was on Tommy's, on his chat, they said that Andrew came forward because I asked the question, well, was he ever investigated?
Right.
And they said, yes, he was investigated, but they never recorded his investigation, which to me was like, well, who do you know is investigated for a crime and isn't actually tape recorded or video recorded? That's crazy to me.
Oh, you're talking about interrogated once they arrested him?
Yep,
Okay.
interrogation. Yes,
Yeah.
interrogation.
That's what I heard also, that he was interrogated without any kind of documentation, but that could just be hearsay, but everything that we hear is not always 100% truthful. It's easier to make the pieces fit if you stick to the factual information that you're given. Even though we want to believe certain people on what they state. I was in a chat room earlier, and thank you, Jeff. And I was in a chat room earlier, and I know from my own eyes, and I presented this on my channel, I presented the Pennsylvania affidavit, and they had receipts on there that showed the stuff that they retrieved out of Brian's car. Well, the creator said, well, let me Google that. So she Googled it. She went down 2 links, didn't search any further, and said, nope, that's not true. It's not on Google. So she presented that to the chat. And I was like, oh my God, you didn't even do a thorough search to really give them the opportunity to see what was in that vehicle. They retrieved a shovel, goggles, brown boots.
No, this is a live, Aquarius. This is a live.
A hotel key, loose change, mask. So all that was retrieved out of his vehicle. But she didn't go digging that deep. She just wanted to show the audience that she Googled it, and Google didn't come back with anything, and she stood behind her claim that there was nothing there. There was nothing in the car. Which, if you're going to make a claim like that, I believe that it's not.
This is just a members only live. The members are the only ones that are getting a shot to get this. I looked at this and it says 3 hours and 24 minutes. I don't think if I'll go 3 hours unless you guys are enjoying it and want to see all of it. I mean, that's a lot of information in this video.
As creators, it's not our duty to try to direct the narrative to the chat. Like I'm right down the middle. Sometimes I speculate, and one of these days I'm going to do a speculation video where I'm just speculating on everything that I've heard about this case and seen about this case, and see where it goes. You know what I mean? So, but I believe, and I don't have, and everybody doesn't have to believe like I believe, but if we're going to present information just to show the chat that we're behind their thoughts, that's like, I don't know. To me, I would never do that to the chat. I give them the opportunity to make up their own mind whether he's guilty or whether he's not. I just try to present the facts,
Absolutely.
So there's not enough evidence.
Okay, I made this video on Rumble. This was during my suspension. So that's why it was so long, because I had a lot to say, and I hadn't been on for like a week, I think, and I had a lot to say. And this was the first time that I was able to go live, so I made this video. So here we go. This is going to be talking about the case with two experts, and the one on the right, if you're looking at the screen, he's going to be talking about the dark triad.
To keep going on, we can dismiss the charges against Mr. Koberger and let him free. The other way would have been bail. You know, if the judge would have given him bail and he could have afforded it, then he could have been let free. Or if that changes and they somehow implement bail and he's able to afford it and be let free.
No, I totally get you. That's it, because you're totally right on that.
Okay. Is there anything that you could see that could possibly, at this point in the game, let him go? Like, there's no way that the lawyers can say, you're right about the evidence that's been possibly withheld or the evidence that's been tainted. We need to file a motion to let him go.
Well, we don't even know, because of the gag order, we don't know what the prosecution actually, has.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, is like, why is it such a big secret? I mean, like I said, I have my own, feelings and my own, thoughts on this. And like you said, I don't want to, like, everybody has their own opinions,
Right.
too. But it's just like, now, can you, because it's a death, like, he's on death row, can he actually get bail?
I believe in Idaho there is no bail due to the death penalty because it's a death penalty case. But I know here in Texas we just had a capital murder occur, and the judge gave them $10 million bails, both of them. So I don't understand how it's different as far as the law is concerned, but it's up to the judge and how he perceives the person who's accused as being a threat to society. That's what bail is meant to give you freedom to get your life stuff in order before the trial, just in case you are found guilty, or to continue to investigate your case to possibly put it into discovery before the trial starts. That's what all that's for. So no, BK's isn't a capital case. I was talking about the case here in Texas where a 13-year-old girl was murdered and two illegals did it from Venezuela, and they were given bail of $10 million that was set. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't talking about Brian. I wasn't talking about his case. But let's listen to the video a little bit, and then we'll discuss it, because I gotta pause it in between. So we'll discuss bits and pieces of it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Here we go.
It was like when I first heard it in the news and I heard like these young girls and there were 4 people and I was like, how did he get to all of them? Like
without somebody calling the
in
police
a
or
row.
something. Yeah.
Like it was like I thought maybe they were drugged or something, but it was even more sinister. But Caleb
Well, they were intoxicated. I mean, I think these women were intoxicated. Most of the people, I don't know about the roommate, but I definitely, you can see it on camera that Maddie and Kaylee, they were intoxicated. The other two, Zana and Ethan, had been at a party all night. So I think that played a huge role in this, that the victims were intoxicated, and people just do not have a good grasp, and it's understandable, of what a knife attack is actually like. It's not like the movies.
Was this guy at the party too? Is he there?
No, he wasn't. He left his
Oh,
house
okay.
about 15 minutes away at about 2:30, 2:40 in the morning.
Tell us again about the knife attack. So I feel like we have some useful information there.
Yeah, so knife attacks are very lethal, and there's two things that can, with a knife, that can cause problems where people won't fight back. One is, if you get a severe stab wound to the lung, your lung could collapse, to the neck, or these places where your function in life, which is breathing, is disrupted. That's a major blow to a person who's never been injured or never been in a fight before. I mean, you're going from never being in a fight to now you're trying to fight for life. Also, hitting any artery, if you don't get a tourniquet on it, you're going to bleed out within a minute at the most. So you're looking at people that woke up or were woken up or didn't wake up. They just, a traumatic injury to their body instantly occurred. And this knife that he used is not my pick of knives that I use for anything. It's a old K-bar knife. They don't hold an edge well, so they don't stay sharp. And the point is prone to breaking off. However, it's a big knife. And if you hit somebody full force in the chest with it, there's just not a lot of fight that you can get back with that unless you will something up from inside and want to fight back like an animal. Most people.
And I know a lot of, before the other 12 gauge talks, I want to intervene. How do I get this off here? Okay. He said that the K-bar doesn't stay sharp very long. For whatever reason, I believe that. I don't know what y'all have heard. I don't know what research y'all have done with that. But if you've heard or you've researched differently, please let the chat know. Because the thing about information, it's how people perceive it. If you perceive a K-bar not dulling quickly, and you can prove factual information about that, then there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. First of all, I got 2 points I want to make, and then I'm going to turn it to you, Ginger.
Okay.
The first point is I put a Rumble video on my community tab that showed a knife attack, a real knife attack, where an individual was sliced in the neck and he bled out instantly. It was like 3 seconds, if that. So if y'all want to go and watch that gore, you're more than welcome to. So the second part is, as far as the K-bar knife, we don't really know if that was the knife used, but based on what he just said about it, it could make sense if that knife was used, because he said it dulls quickly, and sometimes the tip break off. Like with any knife, if you're gonna hit bone or something like that, based on how the knife is built, or if it's an old version of the knife, let's say that the knife was used in back in the time of the Vietnam War or something, if that was the knife used, or if it was a brand new knife that was ordered, or it was bought at a knife show or anything like that, it has obviously a lot to do with the durability of the knife. So what do you think, Ginger?
Yeah, I'm not really, like an expert on knives, but I did look into a case once. Have you ever heard of oh gosh, I'm just trying to think of the Ketty murders? And
Refresh my memory.
Ketty murders out of California back in like 1982, maybe 1983, where the mom, Sue, was murdered. She and her son, they were all stabbed to death. Somebody came into the home and stabbed them and used like an actual kitchen knife.
Okay.
The kitchen knife actually like bent the Ketty murders is a huge like crime. It's very, very popular. I mean, I'm surprised that you haven't heard of that. You said you're in Texas?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this particular crime happened many years ago. But in regards to the knife, situation, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really think a K-bar knife was used in this case.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I say that is just, again, it's more like feelings. It's more speculation. It's more like, do you remember when the news came out and they were talking about the dog Buddy that was skinned alive and the bunny?
Mm-hmm.
I thought about that and I thought, well, I wonder what kind of knife they used, or, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, as far as the knife, I believe that, or it's my opinion. I need to learn to start saying that. It's my opinion that
Mhm.
it could have been a K bar, or it could have been a derivative of a knife that was actually like a K bar, or even possibly a machete. I mean, I know a
Yeah.
machete's huge, but they have different variations. I mean, they're different sizes. It's not necessarily the long blade that many people buy. I mean, I have a machete in my truck, and for hunting purposes. Okay, so y'all don't freak out. Call me a serial killer or anything like that. Um, but there's different types of knives, and there's also a knife that I was watching um from this guy, and it's made by K-Bar, and it has like a curved claw to it, and it's only probably about not even 6 inches. I would say like 4 inches long, but it has a claw to it, and you hold it in your hand, and you're able to just kind of dig into the person. And I know this is very, very graphic, but we're all adults here, and that type of knife, and I'll find a picture for the next Idaho video that I do, or a video. There is a whole video on K-Bar in my library that gives the history, that shows the knives and everything else. And there's actually videos in my library that people have demonstrated the strength of the K-Bar. They show the K-Bar knife being put through various tests. So if you want to go into my library and watch some of those, you're more than welcome. But the thing that addresses this situation is the severity of the knife blow, because the coroner said they were not. A lot of them were not stabbed; they were deep gouges that were kind of ripped out. And
Mm-hmm.
that is very vicious. That is very, very, very vicious attack on anybody, whether it be an animal, whether it be a human, and as far as the dog Buddy and the other thing, there was a rabbit, right? I think. Um,
Yeah, that's
I
what I
think
heard. That's
I
what I
think
thought. Yeah.
the owner stated that Buddy was kind of filleted.
Yeah.
I don't know why they use that wording, and I don't even want to imagine why they use that wording. But it would have been, if they would have said, they skinned him, but they said his fur was taken all over his body, but his head and his little paws. So that's just a very viciousness. That's just a vicious attack in itself, also. And if you remember, during these times when these things were coming out, we also heard of coyotes being killed and dropped at the doorsteps of the frat houses. The individual had to clean it up. He was, there was a report taken, obviously, or maybe there wasn't, because Moscow obviously doesn't take a lot of reports. But the police were called, and that's no dig at them. Just looking at their, at their police blotter, you can see that no report taken, no report taken. I hope they've gotten better at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I thought that was like, wow. I saw that too with the fraternity kids, and the coyotes. I thought, oh my gosh, that is so incredibly scary. Like,
Yeah.
why would you want to even send, like, your child, to school? You send your child away to school, and things like this happen. It is mind-boggling to me. I just can't even imagine. Everybody's mind goes one way, especially as parents. You try not to be terrified, because then, but this case, in regards to, like, like the topic that we're on with the knife and with the gouging, I, am thinking that, like you said, the machete, and when you have a K-bar, don't you have to have a license for that? Isn't there a law in the state of Idaho, especially, that you have to have, isn't there a license that you have to carry a knife like that? Isn't that a military knife?
I don't particularly know. I know that. Oh, good point. I was gonna say, here in Texas, you're allowed to have a 4-inch knife on your person. So anything bigger than that, then it is against the law. But I don't know in Idaho if there has to be something that differentiate between regular knives and something that is used for something like that. Because I know here in Texas, there's a lot of ranchers, there's a lot of oil field guys, there's a lot of hunters, there's a lot of fishermen, and you're allowed to have a 4-inch knife on your person, so it's no big deal to see somebody with a knife on them. It's no
Right.
big deal. And even
And
guns at this point.
in 4 inches, like, are you talking about like a pocket knife, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
but what about like an actual hunting knife? Is that legal?
I believe as long as you have it where you can't reach it, kind of like the gun. I believe that if you're using it for hunting purposes, it needs to be strapped in an area where you just can't reach it, like right next to you. If it's under the seat, or if it's in the glove box or something where you have to actually stop to reach it, I think you're okay. But as far as
Okay.
carrying it on your person, I don't think anywhere it's okay to do that. But I could be wrong, because
Right.
I'm not above being wrong, and that's one thing that.
Yeah, I was quite. I wasn't well versed on that, but then I remember you guys commenting on that it's not illegal to have a knife on you. I know here in Texas, like I was saying, 4 inches, and you can carry it in a little knife sheath on your belt. And the same thing with a gun. You're right, Texas. In our state, it's not a big deal to carry a gun. I've seen countless people carrying. So, we're about our protection down here. I don't know about Idaho, but just like Heather's, putting in the chat, she's right. So one of these says Idaho law does not prohibit knives. However, some restrictions exist for knives with blades exceeding 6 inches in length. It is more so about if it is concealed or not. But you know how us guys are, 6 inches to us and 6 inches to other people are different. So I guess we got to walk around with a tape measure or something. I mean to be dirty, just had to interject that little bit of humor. Hope y'all get it.
That I pride myself in is, I don't know everything. So, I learn every day from people. As long as it's factual, I'll listen to it. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
So that's a little bit about the knife, and he was describing a lot of that. So let's get back to the video.
Okay.
People, when they're hit with that much of a trauma to their chest or face, it's going to be the same as if I held you underwater. You're going to struggle, but if I can put some pressure on you, you're going to succumb to whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Jesus. Caleb, any questions?
Yeah. Who do you think was was there one specific person that was the target in the house that you've kind of figured out, or was it all four of them? Was it just someone in general, or do they have any information on that yet? Was it one specific one of the women?
Well, we know, I think they know where he kind of rolled in and started. I believe he started upstairs, but I'm not comfortable saying that all these other analysts are going out there and they're saying, oh, he definitely targeted, Kaylee, or they found the knife sheath on Maddie, so maybe she was the target. But I don't know, with a person like this who he has stalked that neighborhood 12 times before this night, so he was obviously interested in that neighborhood. He was obviously interested in that house. So I think that is something that will be determined down the road. And there's a lot of things they can do to determine that, like what's the severity of the attacks, because it's going to get less and less. It's a very exhausting thing to kill this many people with a knife. And but had he just gone in and the first person he encountered was Kaylee, for instance, and he attacked her, it wasn't necessarily a target. He just saw girls in there. She's going to have the most lethal wounds. So there may be something that comes out in his phone records that show that he was in the location of one or two of these people. And that is what will most likely lead them to determine who he was targeting, not the severity of the attack on the people inside the rooms.
Right. He had been around this house a couple times before, right? Like this is for some reason a target 12 times before. Yeah.
12 times. Yeah. So
Okay. We have a new member to the panel. Her name is Amicus Curiae. That is a criminal justice term, if y'all don't know that. Hey, Amicus, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I've seen some of your videos. I've actually went to your page and seen some of your stuff. Great work. Great work.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
No problem. Have you been listening to what we've been talking about and what the individual on the video has been talking about? Do you have any insight on that?
I do a little bit, yeah. So, something that was mentioned was, having a license in order to have a K-bar knife. And considering, well, first off, I just have to point out that, I am military. I'm in the Air Force for the United States. And I have been issued military weapons before, and I still currently have them. Pretty much anyone who has deployed at least to a hazardous area will get these weapons. And so they're really not hard to come by. And so I understand that there may be laws in order to carry these weapons in order to buy these weapons. But like I said, they're really not hard to come by. I feel like most people have some sort of military member in their family, and it wouldn't really be hard to come by something that was issued. Especially in my case, I have a ton of Gerber knives, for example, but the Marines, I know they get K-bars. So that was just something I had to point out there. If it isn't legal in order to buy them, they're really easy to to have in Idaho or anywhere really.
Okay. So have you been listening to the part about the injuries to the 4 victims? What's your take on it being a K-bar or another type of knife?
I feel like when you look at the PCA, it does say that it came from a sharp force injury or whatever it said. I have to pull it up to see the exact details. So they don't actually specify what what weapon they think was used. So that's kind of telling, in my opinion. But given the fact that they found a knife sheath there, and I can't imagine that any of these victims had that knife sheath, or I'm sorry, not that knife sheath, that knife with them, I feel like I don't know, it's kind of telling, in my opinion, that it's probably that.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. So you brought up an interesting statement there. If it would have been one of the victims' knives, would it have been more feasible that that knife would have been found maybe under the bed, under a pillow, maybe somewhere in that room? Possibly that knife could have been found if the individual who committed these crimes brought. I really enjoyed this live because we had like 4 people on panel at one time, and the more people you have on there, the more different variations of understanding that you can get. I mean, I miss those lives like that. I don't know what happened to my lives, but they haven't been the same for whatever reason. But there's a lot of great um, educational facts that these individuals are able to present. And I'm cleaning as I'm presenting this to you guys. So if you hear me breathing heavy, I don't know why I'm breathing heavy, but just be kind. Put their own knife in, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that there would be some, especially early on in the case, because early on in the case, I feel like we heard a lot of speculation that actually seemed a little bit more poignant, like a little bit more like directly related to these victims. One of those examples is, the 4chan post and stuff like that. And so I feel like if one of these victims actually had a K-bar knife and people knew that they had a K-bar knife, it probably would have gotten brought up, let alone it would have been pointed out that, I don't know, that this weapon was within the house or something like that.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of the information that came out very early on in this case was more interesting to me than the stuff that's come out later on.
Okay, thank you so much for your commentary there. Ginger, do you have any follow up to that now that you've heard her take on that? Do you want to add or?
Sure. Well, thank you for your thoughts on that. The gouging, yes, I'm thinking no, that this definitely, that the sheath, had been planted for sure. That is truly my opinion. I'm also believing, because you can't really, after what they said about the PCA, I just truly believe that it's not reliable. And that is strictly my opinion. I also am thinking that the gouges are more, definitely personal. Definitely, like, I just think if it was somebody that, like the 4chan, like the frat boys,
Mm-hmm.
I just think, like we had talked about in the initial, the beginning of this show, is what kind of minds do would these kids have to have in order to commit this crime? That's why I believe in my heart of hearts that this is definitely like more, cartel, like more upper, because like you'd almost have to be completely psychopathic to commit something like this. I mean, gouges to me is more like, maybe possibly, I don't want to say this for sure because this is just strictly my opinion. Please don't hate me for saying this, but I'm almost like looking at organ selling, something like that. Like, this is like where my mind is going with this, because gouges is huge. It's like it's not just regular stabbing. It's not like, did you hear how many times, Kaylee? Of course, that is speculation.
Okay, as far as the organ selling, I wouldn't really venture down that line of thinking because as far as we know, there was no organ taken. Everybody was intact. There was some severe knife wounds. As the dad stated, at one point the wound didn't match, but that has nothing really, in my opinion, to do with the attack. I mean, it could have been the guy was getting tired. He started very fiercely at the beginning. Toward the end, he was getting tired. Whoever did this, and ended up not as proficient as he was in the beginning, he or she. So that is my take on that. But Ginger, had an interesting theory, and that's awesome. We are entitled to our theories.
Because that isn't anything, we don't know the autopsies of these kids.
Right.
We haven't heard exactly.
That is the live 12 right now. This one right here talking, this is me live.
We don't know what their bodies, what they look like. We didn't even see any photos. So gouges to me just seems so overkill.
Right.
Like overkill, over the top, like ridiculous.
Well,
But then there's kind of, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I feel like you also have to look at the weapon that was potentially used, right? So a K-bar knife, that weapon is made to kill people. I mean, that's
True.
a specific reason. So even if the killer wasn't intending to, gouge these kids, it could have just been from strength alone that's what happened.
That's true.
But I do agree that it was personal, because when we look at Ethan's wounds that he had, I mean, slashing someone's neck is it's pretty personal, especially when you compare it to the other wounds and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I forgot the next point I was going to get at, but hopefully it'll come back to me.
Well, that's fine. It happens once you get up here. Your mind just goes crazy. Well, I appreciate y'all's thoughts. Let's continue on. I wanted to show this picture of the knife sheath, and you can tell how they're swabbing it for DNA. I've always been confused if the trace DNA came from the top of the knife sheath like that, or if it came from the bottom, the button part. I know that I've read where it came from. So, do y'all remember what part it came from?
From the bottom of the button, the snap.
Okay, the snap. That's what I thought, but I wasn't certain, so
Yeah.
that's why I asked. So what's y'all's thoughts on that? I mean,
How do you think that one piece of trace evidence, and I'm going to call it evidence because that's what it is,
landed on that button? Any thoughts?
I feel like it's kind of convenient. It's like
Okay.
if you were going to touch any part of this sheath, right? Like if you were to be the killer that used it, it's kind of, this is something I've kind of always thought is like, why find it like directly on the button? It's not like you don't touch every other part of it. So I've always kind of thought it was convenient and kind of humorous to me to read in there that, oh, this little piece of DNA that they only have a 10 what is it called? A 10-part DNA analysis on it. It just so happens to be on the part that would be like the most incriminating in a sense. So yeah, I just think it's kind of funny.
Okay.
For sure. No, that's a great point. I agree with her too, because I'm like, out of the entire knife sheath, that's where like the DNA is. I mean, like, I don't know. That's crazy to me too.
Okay. Well, we have another guest up here. We have Kay, or Carla number one, as you guys knew her as last night. Carla, we have Amicus and we have Ginger up here. Amicus is. Did you say you were current military or past?
I'm current.
Okay. Well, Kay was in the military as well, and so if you guys want to say hi while I pull up this video, and you know,
Hi
display
guys.
pleasantries.
Hi,
It's
Kay.
good to have you guys. Awesome to meet you.
Well, nice to meet you guys.
You too.
Prior
Well,
service, what branch were you?
Me, I was in the Army. I served in the Army for 5 years active duty.
I'm Air Force. You know I have to talk shit on that, right?
Yeah, you better be careful on that. We're not gonna go there. This ain't the time nor the show. We're not gonna do that.
I'm totally kidding, Kay.
hey, we're gonna be civil. We're gonna be civil unless y'all come on camera and want to, like, no. I'm just
I'm
kidding.
totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. It's kind of a known rivalry between us.
Yeah. Kay, have you been listening at all to what we've been talking about? Really quickly, I'm gonna put you up to speed. We're going over the second part of the video of the dark triad, which I explained it earlier, or it was explained in the video about narcissism, Machiavellism, and psychopaths or psychopathy. So, and then this individual in the middle, he is a Navy SEAL, ex FBI, and he was talking about Brian Koberger and the personality traits in this interview. This interview was done on 1/6/2023. So he's breaking down the perp to Dr. Drew, and they're asking him questions. So we got to the part of the knife, the K-bar knife. Believe that, based on your perception, whether it was a K-bar knife or it could have been something else that caused a wound to these victims.
Well, I mean, I think it was that the knife. I mean, because okay, so here's my take on it, right? The whole knife thing. I did. How can I explain this in a very fast way? We know what we would call environmental ignorance on his part, right? Because when he was stalking, or we think that he was stalking, he knew where the two girls worked at that Mad Greek place. And then he goes and he, very quickly, we could speculate that he was there. They're saying that he never was there, but he was there. But that's where Maddie and that Zaina girl worked at, right? Okay, so if you think about it, he's following these girls, right? So then you would get to the opportunity, we fast forward, and he's going to go in and he's going to kill him, and he's got this knife. Okay, now what happened, when I say environmental ignorance, what I mean by that is that he didn't count on the fact that there was a lot of things were going to shift about that night, which was one, they had just had a game, people were up late that night, so the environment itself was different. Plus, he didn't count on the fact of all of the cameras and everything. So whenever he's walking in and he's encountering an environment in which he thought he already knew, but he didn't know, because there was people there that, the way the positioning of everything, he got messy, and I think that's what led to the knife, led to the droppings, led to the, what was it that they found that had to do with that knife? The Moscow knife? I can't remember, but I mean, that's just my take on it. I think he just
Okay.
got sloppy. I think he got sloppy there because he didn't encounter that.
Well, we did hear it was a sloppy, bloody scene. Kate's doing well. She's back to work and she's doing well. We did hear at the beginning that it was a bloody, sloppy kind of scene. So, I mean, that's to be stated that you know that's partially correct. You know, let's continue on with this.
Because I mean, when we know he went from a university that was a very small university to a very big university, he underestimated a lot of things. One, he underestimated, the number of cameras that were going to be around. Two, he's driving back and forth, three times that cameras had seen him on the night of, and I think he was just kind of startled by it all and was a little bit sloppy.
Okay. Well, let's continue. Go ahead.
So the only part that I have an issue with, because I just don't want to spread misinformation, is that there was no, unless you know something that I don't know, there was no information that says that he went to the Greek cafe, that he was stalking them per se.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, you're right about that, because they did interview. So they did interview the owner of the Mad Greek, right? And the guy that the owner or whatever said no, he has never been here. He has never been here. Okay, but now let's stop and think about it. Total speculation here, okay? This part is fixing to be total speculation, but let's stop and think about it. It's reported that he's vegan, right? So could there have been a possibility that he could have gone there? Does the owner know for certain back and forth? Now, if you think about it, if you're the owner of a restaurant, you may have seen this guy in your restaurant maybe once or twice, right?
No, okay, we've debunked that. He didn't go there. He went to Oregon to a vegan restaurant that was more vegan friendly than the Mad Greek. So we have shown that on a video. That's been debunked. I'm just joking, y'all. How many of y'all are still here? Let me keep going. We've gone an hour and 30 minutes. I know these things go long, but I never, especially on these members only, I don't know who's still here, who's not. So if you're still here, just put a number 1 next to your name. Let's go.
Commendable that you won't jump to these conclusions, because one of the worst parts about this whole case was the fact that a lot of these internet sleuths and the true crime people, a lot of people jumped the gun on this, and they were all making assumptions, and they were accusing people who turned out to have nothing to do with it. And on top of that, a lot of people were accusing the local police department of being inept and mishandling this. And then when the documents came out just like a few days ago, everyone had to kind of pull back on that all of a sudden whenever they realized, oh, the cops have been working on this the whole time. It's just the fact that they've been doing a good job by not leaking all of these documents out to the press. They've actually been doing 10 times as good of a job as people were imagining. So I'm commendable for you not making guesses on that like the others were doing.
I'll tell you something. These internet sleuths, which we call them internet sleuths, they're no different than QAnon people who jump on some type of a weird group think
theory.
And if you go and look at the stuff that they write, they'll argue with me. I go on Twitter and I take part in the dialogue quite a bit on social media. But people will say, I don't think it's that way. And I say, well, you've never been trained to kill. So it's probably, it happened in this way, this type of attack with a knife. And I was saying this before and how he was doing it. And they just don't even care. It'd be like them telling, Dr. Drew that it's a patient saying, well, I don't think you know what you're talking about. You're just because you have a you know,
Happens all the time.
Trust
Yeah,
me, it happens
it
all the time,
happens
and all
every
day long
day.
on Twitter.
Yep.
All day
Yep.
long on Twitter and in real life, it happens. Hey, that's how patients treat their doctors. But what do you mean by how he used the knife? Tell me about that.
Well, like I was saying that on Twitter, I came out and said a couple things, and I said that in order to be efficient at killing, you have with a knife, you have to kill with a knife, and in order to understand I don't remember exactly what it was, but that was basically the gist of it, right? So people just instantly started jumping on the bandwagon, saying that you don't have to train to kill with a knife. There's been instances where wives or somebody has killed somebody with a knife. And so trying to help them understand that systematically killing multiple people, along with the stalking that he did, the surveillance that he did, and getting in there, all this stuff takes training to be able to get there and effectively do this. And also psychologically and dealing with the adrenaline dump. This type of stuff takes training. And they just don't want to hear that. They think that a lot of people think that he just did this, that he was following Kaylee and the other people were in the house, or that he knew one of the roommates and that let him in there. And
this is great points, because I've taken classes where they teach you how to survey people, how you watch them, not stalk them. You watch them and you systematically position yourself where they can't see you, but you can see them, and you survey them. That's a different form than stalking. I don't believe that he was stalking them. I believe that he was systematically surveying and watching, maybe driving the paths to muscle memory himself, that if he had to do that quickly, he wouldn't panic, because he would know, like he just stated, about the adrenaline dump. When your adrenaline is flowing so hardcore, there's no thinking going on, because all the blood is going to your major organs and the muscles. So, therefore, you have to systematically remember how to do things without thinking. So, I believe that if those 12 times or those 11 times that they've been spoken on, you have to be able to do it without thinking about it. You know, you said the stalking statute includes surveilling. Yeah, I mean, but I don't believe that actually that they knew that if he was the one, that they knew he was stalking them. I don't believe that. I believe that, and we agree to disagree, right? I don't agree that, you know, that he was showing himself because of the Machiavellianism that we just spoke on earlier, which is part of the triad, that he was being watching from afar. Because stalking, you have to understand that the person has to know that you're stalking them. Kind of like, okay, there was a case that I did where this lady broke up with her boyfriend, and he would show up to her gym and put his gym mat right next to her, work out while she was there. Everywhere that she went, he was there, and he ended up killing her. She reported it. She knew that it was him stalking her. I don't believe that that's the kind of stalking that we're talking about here. I'm talking about surveying, watching from afar, not necessarily even being seen by anybody. I mean, it's kind of like the peeping Tom, the voyeurism type stuff. They're not always seen, but they're able to see what they want to see. And that's just my opinion on that. Thank you for your opinion, Heather. I enjoy that somebody has a different opinion than I do. We can have these conversations.
there's no evidence.
Okay, let me stop it right there, because I'm glad I have you two up here. All three of y'all actually, but the ones that are, have been in the military and actively been trained to defend yourself first and foremost, correct? Am I correct on that, both of you? Oh, you
I'm
are
sorry, what
muted.
was what you
Yeah,
said?
you are
Have I
muted.
defended myself?
Oh, sorry. I had muted myself because I didn't want there to be background noise while
You're fine.
everyone was trying to.
And Ginger, if you have any kind of self-defense or any kind of training to defend yourself,
No. I mean, no, absolutely not. Actually,
so these other two, you two, Amicus and Kay, y'all been trained to defend yourself, even if it means mortally wounding somebody, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So this individual on panel said, on the video said, you wouldn't know what that's like unless you haven't been trained how to do that. Is that a correct statement, or do you think he's embellishing that?
Well,
It kind of depends. It really depends on your level of training. I feel like there's I don't know. There's kind of like you can only be as trained as you can be trained, in a sense, when it comes to fighting someone hands on hand. But yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so if
I mean,
let's take Brian's name and let's take him out of the equation for the rest of the night. Okay, let's just think that there's not a person of interest yet, and we're going along the lines of understanding this individual. So, in your opinion, on what you've heard and what you've read about the killings, would this person have been military? Could it have been a military-minded person? Could it have been because
no.
the training is different, correct?
No, it's not going to be military. It's not going to be military because, I mean, I'm only going to speak to the training that I received. So you've got two different branches of the military up here, right? So I'm not going to speak to what Air Force does or doesn't do because I was not in the Air Force. I was in the Army. So during the training for Army, okay, and this is Army, I'm not talking about any other branch because I was not a part of any other branch but the Army. So in the Army, while we have a level of training which is called basic training, and that's basically where we're learning how to be soldiers, and we're learning how to some of it is going to be how to defend ourselves to a certain degree, of course, right? We're not training. They're not training us, the Army at least, with knives. Okay, they're not training us with knives per se. Okay, they're training us how to shoot. Okay, now we can get in there, we can shoot, I can shoot. Okay, so whenever we're talking about this, that would be such a broad statement. No, would I think automatically that this was somebody who was in the military? Absolutely not, because I think somebody with the military, we're observers. We're trained to observe and know our surroundings, or at least for Army. Okay, I'm trained that way. I'm going to observe. So I don't know that an Army, that a person with a military background would have made some of the mistakes that he made. So I mean, that's just my given. I mean, we're trained to be soldiers. We're not trained to be assassins and killers in that sense. We're trained in a very specific way to be soldiers. I think a lot of the people who aren't affiliated with the military automatically assume that military people, we're trained assassins. We're not trained assassins. Now, there is different levels of training, right? Everybody gets their basic training, and then from there, you go on and you get your specialty training, versus if you want to be a Green Beret, if you want to be, a special forces, if you want to be, and you get more training, right? But the general military, unless you're going into those special training courses or that track, you're not I didn't get trained to go in there and kill people with at high rates of speed. Like, that was not what I was trained for in the Army. Now, if I would have been a male and I would have gone for my Green Beret, if I would have gone in special forces, or would I have then received some further in-depth training? Well, probably, but I was none of those things.
All right, Amicus, how about you? Discuss some of the training that you received regarding.
So while I do agree because the job that I'm specifically in, I never had any direct like combat training initially. I was, recruited into special tactics, and I actually went and I trained with Green Berets, something that you're probably familiar with, but 68 Whiskeys. But I trained with Green Berets, 68 Whiskeys, or PJs, and MARSOC, which is Marine Special Forces. And in those trainings, in which I was actually deployed and I was overseas in Africa, we definitely trained with knives. Like 100% we trained with knives. And
Okay.
the Marines were probably some of the most gruesome people I have ever met in my entire life. And this wasn't just one unit. I did a full 12-month long rotation out there with this, not just one MARSOC unit, it was 2 MARSOC units. And maybe this is something I'll eventually talk on my channel about, but the MARSOCs were not good people. They were despicable, to say the least. And that was coming from another Air Force member. And I'm not talking about like despicable in the sense of like any acts on, Americans or our allies and stuff like that. It was just the choices that they made were just disgusting. And so I really don't put it past anyone, especially Marine Special Forces, to do anything. And that's why, and I'm not saying that this is the case. I'm not saying that a Marine did this and it was Brent Kopaka or some shit like that. I'm really not. If anyone has watched my videos, I've already said that I do not agree with the Brent Kopaka theory. But I don't really put it past anything. Ginger, she had talked about earlier where she had said, I'm sorry if this seems crazy, my theory that I have.
There's nothing crazy. We're all
yes, nothing is crazy, nothing. And therefore, if I'm going to believe that she could have a cartel theory, I could easily 100% believe that this was a Marine, if not some other armed forces. Really.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now Marty, okay, so let's put it into perspectives for everyone. Okay, when I served, that was over 20 years ago. Okay, she's currently on active duty. The military has changed very much between when I served and a person currently serving. So, I mean, just to put it out there, okay? So I'm not saying, I mean, if you had what would have been a little bit more fair into this discussion would have been if we would have been able to find someone on the Army side that's currently active duty, you know, because then they would be a little bit more compatible to what she is saying. So, I mean, I want to say that for the chat, you know, for the people that are not, you know, fully aware, because there's going to be some things that she's going to have a very strong viewpoint because she's went through it and is going through it, where I'm going to be like, nah, didn't happen when I was serving. But both points of view are relevant. It's just you've got to look at it in its totality. 2 totally different branches of the military, 2 totally different times of being served, 2 totally different trainings. So basic training, how I encountered it, isn't going to be the same basic training that somebody is going to enter into today.
I 100% agree, because look at what you went through. You went through a time of people who were recovering from 9/11, and people were very...
Okay, I'm going to stop it at that point because there's a lot more that goes on to this. But I would definitely follow up with this because there's a lot of great insight on this. And if you want to go ahead and watch it, it's called the Idaho 4 Dark Triad Part 2, Escalation of a Killer. And there is a Part 1. So you might go and watch the Part 1. to get acclimated with it. But there's a lot of things that are going on in the true crime arena. And that's why I haven't really been talking a lot about this case in lives and stuff because there's some theories that I don't agree with, and I'll be point blank on that. I don't agree with those theories, not because they haven't been thought out or they haven't been presented in a way that could make them applicable to this crime, but when you're painting people in a dark light, you got to be careful with that because you're presenting them to be a violent, meticulous, vicious, deviant murderer. This isn't just somebody that was mugging an old lady and you took him out because you were protecting her. No. This crime happened in a way, as we've been told, it caused the death of four people. I've had people talking about the sins of the mothers that led to their killings. Could that be a possibility? Anything's a possibility at this point. But does that mean that it's hopefully true? Of course not. Because honestly, I wouldn't start my lives, and this is no shade at anybody, all right? So if you go and tell this man that I'm talking about him, go ahead. But I would not start my lives talking about this is entertainment, and I'm not trying to slander anybody, while the rest of the show is doing just that, slandering people that you have really no connection to identifying that these things that you're saying are true. Because I mean, if you're gonna be about your business, stand behind it. Take the shades off, take the wool hat off, show your face. If you really stand behind your theory, then you really are about it. Let the world see who you are. And quit saying that you're not going to slander anybody or anybody that's a creator. I would say that if you're going to speak on this or any other crime, don't hide behind things. Don't hide behind the shades. Don't hide behind, trying to disguise yourself as a clown or anything like that. I mean, that's your right, obviously. But I believe that if you stand behind what you truly say, you're going to show your face. You're going to stand your ground for what you believe in, and you're not going to hide. And that's just my thought on it all, And that's not any shade at anybody, because I know that there's some creators that don't get on and talk and stuff like that, but their information is solid. It's thought out. It's not chasing ghosts. It's not chasing shadows. It's not chasing any of that. I like that potato, by the way. That's so cool. But to his own. I've gotten to the point where I'm going to start living by my motto instead of trying to be politically correct. There for a while, I was very bad about it for myself, and I was staying true to me. And for some reason, I drifted away from that, and I started worrying about what other people thought about my presentations, about my information, about how I presented things, or about the subs that were in my chats. And somewhere along the way, I lost myself through all this. I guess because when you're starting out, you really don't know a lot of people. Then people start to know you. They start to talk to you. They start to interact with you. You go into other chats and they talk to you, and they know who you are. But for some reason, I aligned myself with people that weren't trustworthy. And I should have just stuck to my gut and stayed true to me. Because if I failed myself, then I've failed me. Nobody else has failed me. Do you get what I'm saying? So I just wanted to say that to you guys. So, I hope to present the best commentary or videos that I can present based on my knowledge of them. Do I know everything? No, I don't. Am I always right? No, I'm not. But I won't lie to you. And I'll be as honest as possible because I believe in what I'm doing, and this is my hobby. So it gives me a chance to unwind from my real job, from my real stressful life. And yeah, I got hooked on subs, I guess. It happens. Do you get started and you're like a nobody in the YouTube streets? And then all of a sudden you walk into place, you walk into a chat and everybody knows you. And if they don't, they want to know you. But I've come full circle. I walk into a chat now and for whatever reason, I'm invisible again and I'm okay with it. Not in all of them, but in a lot of them, they don't want to hear what I got to say. Most of the time, I don't even get acknowledged, and I'm cool with that. That's how it began. And sometimes I am that person that I'd rather be watching others than them watching me. So this takes a lot for me to be able to do this every time I do it. And I hope, no, I didn't steal that stop sign. I didn't. I learned my lesson a long time ago. I was 17 and my friends, the group of friends that I ran with, we went all over town and we stole every sign off every pole. One of my friends, they got to him and he snitched and we got in trouble and we had two options. One, to quote unquote be tried federally, or two, to go around and put all the signs back up. We went and put all the signs back up. So sometimes you live and learn. You make mistakes. I'm not above making my own mistakes. No, this was at this house when I moved in. It was in the garage. So I guess the kids who used to live here, they stole it. They hid it in their grandma's garage, I guess, because this is an older home. Not really old, but it's older. And I was looking in the garage one day and I found it and I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Always wanted a stop sign without having to steal one. So I brought it, put it in my spare room, and here we are. I'm done cleaning, by the way, if y'all wanted to know that. No longer breathing hard, you know. But anyways, I hope that you enjoyed the presentation. I enjoy doing the members only because it really shows the people that come in here, they want to be in here. The same as my lives or the upload. They want to be there. But I'm not doing this in competition with anybody. And if my stuff conflicts with any other creator or it's identical, or you hear my thoughts in somebody else's live, I mean, it's not a competition to me because I'm not winning anything. And I'm all about annihilating my competition. So if it was a competition, there'd be nobody on these streets that could compete because I do my damnedest to put them off the map. Because Stone Cold said so. No, I just had to do that. But seriously, if it was a competition, there'd be nobody on these streets that could handle me. I'd be relentless. I'd be the hardest working person on YouTube. You would not get enough of me, and you would not know me whether you were in true crime or whether you're in trauma or whether you were in any other type of genographic, you would know who 12 gauge was because I'd make it known. That's just the type of person I am. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to win it. But this is not a competition for me. If it was, there'd be nobody that could handle it. And that's all I got to say about that. But before I go, I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. And I hope that you guys enjoyed the live. I might or might not do part 2 tomorrow, but definitely in the near future. And I'm going to ask you one time, can you dig it? Can you dig it? If you can't, you need to give it a bigger shovel. Maestro, cue that music.